Alright, I got a guide to your questions. Solar 3.0. How do I use it? What are aspects? What are fragments? What can I do with this customization? Well, I got the answer for you, and I will teach you everything that you need to know about Solar 3.0. Let's get right into it. Alright, I think the best way to explain everything to you is by using this diagram that I've made. So, at the top, we have kind of general information, and then as we slowly go down the pyramid, we get more specific and more understanding about solar. And no, it is not a pyramid scheme, although it slightly reflects it. It's a different thing, alright? Now, the first thing, what are aspects and fragments, and how does this subclass system work? Number 2, where do I get these aspects and fragments, as well as the rest of the subclass, so like grenades, class abilities, jump abilities? What do the effects even do? What is ignition? What are these things? I will explain that in that section. And finally, synergies, how we put it all together. First, we have aspects and fragments. So let's put this into simpler terms. If solar is like your subclass, then aspects is like your subclass. It's kind of like your featured way of playing. It's your style. So for example, gunpowder gamble for the hunters, which basically allows you to turn your grenade into an alternate explosive that you can throw and then shoot in the air to cause a greater explosion. So these aspects kind of control the way that you play the game. And then we have fragments, which are like your subclass's perks. For example, Ember of Resolve, which makes your solar grenade kills cure you. Cure is another effect that we will talk about down the line, along with ignitions and a bunch of other things. So you got your aspect, which is the way you play. You got your fragments, which is the perks of the solar subclass. Then you have your class ability, which depends on the class that you're playing, obviously. So for Hunter, you have your dodge. For Warlock, you have your well. And for Titan, you have your barricade. I'm assuming that you already know that because that is the basics. So now you're like, okay, we have all this stuff that I need to get. Where do I get it? Well, good question. You gotta waltz your way up to Ikora in the tower, and she will sell everything you need for Glimmer. That is right. Everything, you can just go outright buy it. You don't need to play, you just buy. So you can get all the fragments, all the aspects, and all the jumps, grenades, and everything to your heart's desire. Do also note that the amount of Glimmer is going to be a lot if you want to unlock every single fragment, as well as aspects, jumps, everything like that. So come prepare with some Glimmer, or just try to buy it as you play so you don't go broke on Glimmer. Now, while discovering and looking and kind of digesting the new solar system, you're going to see some words thrown around like ignitions, cure, scorch, radiant, fire spite, and you're like, what the hell do these mean? Well, good thing I have it all written down for you, and I'll even give you an example of a fragment aspect, something that will give you the specified effect, starting with cure. So for example, what we talked about earlier, Ember of Resolve, solar grenades will cure you, which basically means healing. So cure is healing. So anytime you see it say cure, it just means burst of healing. Number 2 is scorch. Scorch is very easy to understand. You're burning an enemy. It does damage over time, and it stacks. So for example, the Hunter melee knife trick, if you hit an enemy, it will apply scorch to them. Now, when enough stacks are applied, this is when you get the term ignitions, which is a large solar explosion that does damage in a large area, as well as stun unstoppable champions. So if you go onto the main character and you look at Overload, Anti-Barrier, Unstoppable, it shows you exactly what will stun each of those set characters based off of Overload, Unstoppable, Anti-Barrier. And under Unstoppable, you have ignitions. So that's where that term pops up. So a stacking Scorch turns into ignitions, which potentially stuns unstoppable champions, which is very useful to know. Next up, we have Fire Spites, which is very simple to understand. grants grenade energy. Boom. Simple. So an example is the Ember of Searing fragment. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire spite. So this is a good combination with other fragments that allow you to scorch enemies. And you're starting to see that these things kind of have a lot in common, and you can see the synergies and the combinations that you can have with this, which I'll give you one for each class, Warlock, Hunter, Titan, that you can use, and that will be very effective in the sandbox. The next one we have Restoration, which is a little bit different to Cure, but very similar. It triggers health and shield regen, which cannot be stopped by damage. So Cure is an instantaneous burst of healing that will automatically bring your health bar up, whereas Restoration is an automatic triggering of the health and shield. So different to Cure, a little bit worse, but can be easier procs. So for example, Sunspots will go to Titan specific. Sunspots, when you stand in them, give you automatic restoration, which if you're just standing in it, will just keep pinging your health to max, which is really helpful in endgame activities. Now, last but not least, we have Radiant. So what happens when you're Radiant? Well, your weapons are enhanced, as well as your weapons gaining barrier piercing rounds. So any weapon that is not already a part of a different type of stun, so like Overload or Unstoppable, as soon as you're Radiant, those guns will turn into anti-barrier rounds, which is super helpful in just any content that has barrier champions. Now a good example of this, and I think the easiest to proc for any character, is the Emperor of Torches. Powered melee grants Radiant. Very simple, and will be an effective way to gain Radiance and pierce those barrier champions, as well as give you some other fun effects that we will go into in the synergies. So those are all the effects of the solar subclass. The more you play with them and the more you play around with fragments and aspects and exotics, you'll get more comfortable with the system, and you won't really have to come back and think about what this does. You'll kind of just already know what it does, so that you can make some really cool builds. Alright, we've talked about what aspects are, what fragments are, we've talked about what the effects are, how to get everything. So let's put everything together and talk about synergies, the most specific that we're going to get for this video. So let's start at the top. So we have, of course, our solar subclass for our Hunter. Going down, we have our solar aspect, Knock 'em down. So it has the main thing being your solar supers are enhanced. Deadshot Golden Gun has damage resistance, Marksman Golden Gun has increased duration, and Blade Barrage launches more projectiles. We don't care about any of that right now, alright? All we care about is the next part. While Radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund melee energy. So, when you are Radiant and you throw your throwing knife, you get a kill, boom, you got another one back. You can just keep doing that over and over. So let's take this a step further. Fragments. Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants makes you and nearby allies Radiant. So, by just throwing it, you will automatically become Radiant, and then you will get your melee energy back, and you can repeat this. But let's go even further. So, we're already using Solar. We don't have Celestial, so I'd like to use Blade Barrage, which is enhanced with more projectiles from Knock 'em down. Well, let's put on Shards of Galanor Exotic Gauntlet with the armor perk Sharp Edge. Throwing knife final blows decrease the cooldown of the super. So already we're getting our super back really fast. Hits and final blows with Blade Barrage will return super energy after the super ends. So with applying heavy-handed armor mods, which gives orbs of power with melee final blows, while putting on the helmet armor mod Hands On, which gains bonus super energy on melee kills, we have a build that will legit give us our super back as fast as possible, while giving us unlimited throwing knives and applying all the other perks that we have along with this solar build. So now you can start to see how these aspects and fragments interact with each other with the combination of exotic armor, we can create some really cool builds. So that's what I had for my idea of a hunter exotic build. Now, Titan and Warlock players, I didn't forget you. I got a build for you as well. Alright, Warlocks, let's get on the Dawnblade subclass. Starting off with the aspect Touch of Flame, which enhances all our grenades, and we're going to use specifically the solar grenade. Increased linger duration, periodically emits blobs of lava around the perimeter. Combine this with Ember of Resolve so that the solar grenades will cure you, and Ember of Char, which means that your solar ignition spread to scorch affected targets, which will be applied by the grenade because the solar grenade also applies scorch. Anything solar will apply scorch, and scorches turn into ignitions, so it's kind of building on each other. But let's add that even step further with the exotic gauntlet Sun Bracers. Increase the duration of solar grenades. Now, the more important part, solar melee kills grant unlimited solar grenade energy for a brief amount of time. So, you get a kill with your melee ability, boom, you can spam your grenade, and by the time you get your melee back, you melee kill, spam your grenade. You can combine this with momentum transfer, which causing damage with your grenade reduces your melee cooldown to allow you to get back to that melee quicker. Firepower, which gives your grenade final blows orbs of power. For your helmet, you can put on gain bonus super energy on grenade kills and whatever kind of other mods you want. This is another really powerful solar build that allows you to stack aspects and fragments and exotic armor to create a very good, healthy endgame build. And last but not least, I did not forget you Titans. We have the Titan Solar subclass, Solar Aspect, Sol Invictus. Solar ability Final Blows create sunspots at where the target died. Sunspots grant restoration when you stand in them and apply scorch and deal damage to targets inside. When you combine them with solar fragments like Ember of Embryon, I think I'm saying that right, solar weapon or ability final kills extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you, so that further increases the restoration and then applies the radiant. Combine that with the Ember of Torches, the one we used for the hunter powered melee attacks, grant you radiant, and using the throwing hammer by picking it up gives it to you again, so you can keep using that. You don't need any radiant to keep that going. Just throw it and then you can go pick it up and use it again. That will grant you radiance. Ember of Embryon will extend the radiance, and then to add on to the fire, pun intended, we use the exotic leg armor Phoenix Cradle, which specifically improves Sol Invictus, which makes it last twice as long, and allies who pass through your sunspots are also granted Sol Invictus and Restoration. Dealing sustained solar damage extends the sunspot. So this makes a very well balanced solar build that creates sunspots, gives you lots of damage, gives you lots of power, makes you radiant, makes you restore, everything that you would want in a build. You can see the synergy amongst all these builds with the solar subclass. You can really start to see the potential and customization with the solar subclass, because I only listed like 5 fragments. There's like 20 of them that all have different effects, some small, some bigger. There's also other aspects that you can use. There's lots of things that you can do with this, and it's important to understand the basics to start making your own unique build. The more you know, the more possibilities and potential you can have with your solar builds. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about 4 things: water aspects and fragments, abilities and grenades, where do I get them, what the effects are, and what synergizes well with what. That is all from me. I hope you enjoyed this informative video, and if you found it informative and or enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. I will see you on the other side. Stay frosty, Guardians.